The stadiums are packed, 50 or 60,000 people cheering their lungs out. The marching band comes in, maybe the pride of the Southland. The majorettes dance, there can be a halftime show. It's all so exciting, but what makes it so exciting? Is it maybe the violence? We hope that it gets limited in the future, but it's the game of football, and injuries are part of it. And it's a violent game that I personally don't think humans are supposed to play. And these things are going to come up, but we trust in our medical staff. Says Buffalo Bills general manager Doug Whaley. The sport is incredibly brutal, violent, and there are a lot of injuries. Sure, there's a medical staff. Hopefully the violence gets limited in the future. But right now, when you see the big crowd packing in, it's for the violence. It's a violent sport, but are there really people who love it? Among the adults who say they currently watch NFL football TV, 6 in 10 say they spend 5 hours or less per week watching. That is 60%. Over 1/4 say they spend between 6 and 10 hours per week watching. And there are always those fanatics out there, 6%, who spend 16 hours or more per week watching. Every week, lots of time, the fans absolutely lap it up. According to the results of a recent Adweek Harris poll, the name is accurate as almost 2/3 of U.S. adults say they currently watch NFL football, 64%, including almost 3/4 of men, 73%, and over half of women. 3/4 of American men are into watching the violence on TV on a regular basis. Nicole Lavoie is the Associate Director of the Tucker Center for Research on Girls and Women in Sport. She said violence in sports has become a form of entertainment for fans. That's why the stadiums are full. We like violence in sports because violence has been commercialized in sport. We've been sold the idea that violent hits and big and hard hits is something we should be excited about. And we see, therefore, we value it. She believes it may be troubling as to what it says about us as a society that we like seeing people injured. Top authority on sports, academic credentials, explains exactly why people are so fond of the professional sports, how the violence has been commercialized. People pay to see the violence and enjoy seeing people injured. The Guardian describes gratuitous bloodlust. We don't need to watch football, we choose to. And everything we get out of it is non-essential. It is a luxury. It satisfies something deep inside us, bloodlust. That same inclination that causes backups at accident scenes and the popularity of videos of lunchroom brawls posted on World Star Hip Hop. We watch an airborne human body get absolutely pummeled by another airborne body. Helmet first, and we can hear the crunch of the bones. We can feel the crunch of bones. Ow, we say, that's gotta hurt. And we reach for the remote control and hit the rewind button. Football fans are like Roman citizens cheering as gladiators fight to the death in the Colosseum. And the Guardian has it right? Absolutely. In fact, there's even a team of football players that calls themselves the Gladiators, as we see in this slide. The Guardian explains the exact reason why people are so fond of games like football. It's bloodlust. They like to see the violence, the hurting, the injuries. But while people are buying their piece of the violence pie, the Lord tests the righteous, but the wicked and the one who loves violence his soul hates. Psalm 11:5. There will always be some grace preachers that tell you that the Lord loves everyone. But as we learned from the Holy Scriptures, the Lord hates the people who love violence. 73% of American men, 64% of Americans in all, groove to the tunes of regular NFL watching. I tend to be more worried about college players than NFL players in the sense that the NFL players have a union. They're grown men, they can make some of these decisions on their own. And most of them are well compensated for the violence they do to their bodies, says Barack Obama, cited in U.S. News and World Report. It's not a secret. Professional sports, with all those thousands and millions of spectators are very violent. The players are doing violence to their own bodies and also doing violence to the bodies of the other players on the field with them. So God said to Noah, I am going to put an end to all people, for the earth is filled with violence. Because of them, I am surely going to destroy both them and the earth. Genesis 6:13. This is just another confirmation that the Lord absolutely hates the people who love violence. And we're talking again about those millions of sports fans. And sports are really filled with violence. At left we see a fight out on the baseball field, and at right we see a hockey brawl. But you might be observing that the story of Noah and his ark took place a long, long time ago. Is this principle still relevant for our day, or has the Lord mellowed out in the meantime? As it was in the days of Noah, so it will be at the coming of the Son of Man, Matthew 24:37. As confirmed in the case of the Orlando Solar Bears and Florida Everblades, they had a mass brawl Saturday in the last minute of their ECHL playoff game. The fight started late in the third period between two players, but their teammates soon joined the fray. So yes, as it was in the days of Noah, so it will be in the end time, our time. So much violence that thick darkness covers the earth. See, darkness covers the earth, and thick darkness is over the peoples, Isaiah 62. Studies consistently show lasting damage and brain trauma is caused to football players who are repeatedly jarred on the field while being tackled. Lasting damage from repeated concussions can lead to depression and dementia. And the suicide rate for former NFL players is almost 6 times the national average. In a high-profile case last December, Kansas City Chiefs linebacker Joe Van Belcher killed his girlfriend and then shot and killed himself at the team's practice facility. Studies have also found that former football players are more likely to have diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. Former NFL players are 3 times more likely to die from a neurodegenerative disease as compared to the regular population. Thick darkness. As so many of these football players go around in a haze of brain damage. Sometimes they're diagnosed with Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, CTE, dementia, or just plain out and out insanity. But this is just another fulfillment of Bible prophecy. But in heaven there will be no more football. No longer will violence be heard in your land, nor ruin or destruction within your borders. Your sun will never set again, and your moon will wane no more. The Lord will be your everlasting light, and your days of sorrow will end. Says Isaiah, no violent sports in heaven. So why are people so in love with the violent sports on earth? Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition, who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that he as God sits in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. 2 Thessalonians 2, 3, and 4. Who could be pushing the exact opposite to God's plan of brotherly love and kindness to others? Oh, it's the Pope, who advises that sports are a means of education. As confirmed by modern science, 7% of coaches encourage athletes to cheat, and 8% encourage their athletes to hurt an opponent. 13% of the players said they have tried to hurt an opponent. This study involved 803 athletes ages 9 to 15, along with parents and coaches, as reported in the Washington Post. The Pope says sports are a means of education. It's true. Athletes are being taught to cheat, hurt other players, and in general engage in activity that hurts others and hurts themselves. Whereas Jesus said, a new commandment I give unto you, that you love one another as I have loved you, that you also love one another. John 13:34. Quite a difference between real Christianity and the world of violent sports. But there are some saints out there that are still fond of their sports, even though they know what Jesus had to say. The New Orleans Saints were found to have operated a bounty system in which players were paid bonuses for, among other things, hard hits and deliberately injuring opposing players. The system was in place from 2009, the season the Saints won the Super Bowl, to 2011, and between 22 and 27 Saints players participated in the program. According to the NFL, the players and defensive coordinator Greg Williams pooled their money to pay out the bonuses over 3 seasons, as reported at ESPN. Look over the opposing team, find their most promising players, and then put them out of commission, hurt them real bad, and get a cash reward for doing so. It is destruction, and we note that the thief comes not, but for to steal, and to kill, and to destroy. I am come that they might have life, and that they might have it more abundantly. John 10:10. At left, we see the destruction. At right, we see life more abundantly. But are sports really the thief that comes to destroy and kill? We consider the very tragic case of little Dylan Williams, a baseball player, who, while he received a trophy for his efforts in the game, lost his life while playing baseball. Dylan Williams was hit in the head by a ball Tuesday and brought to Riley Hospital for Children, where he died Wednesday. An autopsy showed Dylan died of complications of blunt force trauma to the right side of his head and neck. Dylan's father, Eric Williams, was coaching at the time and saw his son get hit. He was playing first, and they went to throw a ball to him and he wasn't really looking. And to me, it looked like it hit him in the side of the neck and he just dropped to the ground. As reported in USA Today. Boy loses his life, but at least he got a trophy. And this is no rare case. Satan has devised a multitude of ways in which to keep man from serving God. He has invented sports and games into which men enter with such intensity that one would suppose a crown of life was to reward the winner. At the horse races and football matches, which are attended by thousands and thousands of people, lives for which Christ shed his blood are thrown away. In the U.S., about 30 million children and teens participate in some form of organized sports, and more than 3.5 billion injuries each year, which cause some loss of time of participation, are experienced by the participants. Almost 1/3 of all injuries incurred in childhood are sports-related injuries. Obviously, some sports are more dangerous than others. For example, contact sports such as football can be expected to result in a higher number of injuries than a non-contact sport such as swimming. However, all types of sports have a potential for injury, whether from the trauma of contact with other players or from overuse or misuse of a body part. Says Johns Hopkins Medicine. Some sports, like football, are more dangerous than others, but all sports involve risk and injuries. There will always be those who say, but it's only basketball or only volleyball. All sports are dangerous. 3.5 million children a year have shown that with their injuries. The leading cause of death from the sports-related injury is a brain injury. Sports and recreational activities contribute to approximately 21% of all traumatic brain injuries among American children. More than 775,000 children ages 14 and younger are treated in hospital emergency rooms for sports-related injuries each year. Most of the injuries occurred as a result of falls, being struck by an object, collisions, and overexertion during unorganized or informal sports activities. And it's not just the athletes and fans that crowd the stadiums that are being killed by sports. Super Bowl Sunday is Drunk Driving Sunday in California. Be careful driving on Super Bowl Sunday. Your chance of being involved in a crash tied to drunk driving can be as much as double that of a normal Sunday in January or February, according to California safety officials in the Auto Club of Southern California. In California, there were 294 fatal and injury crashes on Super Bowl Sundays from 2009 through 2013, versus 166 for the comparable other Sundays, or 26 extra per year. In Los Angeles County, there were 77 fatal and injury crashes on Super Bowl Sundays, versus 49 on the comparable other Sundays. In San Diego County, there were 40 fatal and injury crashes on Super Bowl Sundays, versus 18 on the comparable other Sundays, says the Los Angeles Times.